Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Yvonne Priest Show. I'm Yvonne Priest, your little ray of darkness, and today we are talking to the director of Follow Her. It has been going crazy at film festivals at the moment. We are speaking to director, also she's a writer, she's a producer, Emmy Award winner, Sylvia Caminer. Hi, Sylvia. Nice to finally
Hi.
meet you.
I know. Thank you. It's so nice to talk to someone in Australia, Sydney. Are you in Sydney
Melbourne.
or Melbourne?
Yeah.
I love Melbourne as well as Sydney. I had the good fortune to be there twice and would love to go back again this year. We'll see.
Were you here at the start of the year as well? Because I think I saw you traveling around at some point on your Instagram.
Yeah. So the film played at a night of horror.
Yeah.
Not this year, the year before, but I went this past year because I happened to be shooting something, a travel thing I do in Sydney. Well, not in Sydney. We'd been shooting in Melbourne and Darwin. And so I was like, well, I have to stay and go see Bryn and hang out with everyone over at Night of Horror. So I managed to do it 2 years in a row. And this year, Bryn has asked me to be on the jury. So I'm praying I can make it back out. I would move to Australia tomorrow, but I have
I love
cats.
that. Oh, yeah,
I don't
cats.
think I can get them all the way to Australia. And I don't think Australia is necessarily like, looking for Americans to come move over. So,
But yeah, it was actually a night of horror where I actually first saw the poster for this film. And
oh,
he's
okay.
been doing so great. Also, meaning that he has a fellow, Australian Luke Cook in it. So Luke's great.
Oh
So
my gosh.
can you
He's
just tell us a
great.
little bit about the film for those who haven't seen it?
Yeah, sure. So it is a horror thriller, light on the horror, heavy on the thriller, written by Danny Barker, who also plays the lead opposite Luke Cook. And it's kind of a cautionary tale about social media and who we should trust online and how far we are willing to go for success, whatever that means to you online. Are we willing to cross ethical lines that, maybe become blurry because of this desire to succeed? And so it's pretty timely. It's fun. There's great chemistry between Luke and Danny, and it was a lot of fun to make.
It does look like it was a lot of fun as well. Have you been surprised just how much all these genre film festivals have picked up on it?
I am. I remember early on, Danny and I even talking and I was like, gosh, I really want to go into the horror genre, festivals, that world. And I was just like, and I think there were some festivals that, really only show horror films at midnight. And I was like, well, we're not really a midnight horror film because it's light on it's horror elements, but it's not. But yeah, surprisingly real thick, like heavy duty horror festivals like Fantaspoa and Macabro, Fright Fest, we got into those. So I was like, wow, I guess there's enough there. So it's been really, really fun.
And with Danny, since she was the one who wrote this, she also directs her stuff. What was the collab like with you? Because this was actually your first feature that wasn't a documentary.
Right. Yeah. So Danny, this was her first feature as a writer and also as a star. She'd been in one or two other films as a kind of a co-starring or smaller role. And so she was pretty clear that she didn't even consider directing this because it was her first, you know, kind of entree into feature film. And she knew she wrote it for herself as a starring vehicle. Since making the film and coming out with it, she's really now leaning more into directing.
Mhm.
But yeah, the collaboration was really good because we started first collaborating on the script and we workshopped it a bit, and she's terrific to work with in the fact that nothing was precious to her. Some writers are very precious about their lines, their material, which would have been an issue because Luke Cook is a brilliant improvisator. His improvisational skills are amazing, and some of the funniest lines are his, and I've heard Danny say the same. And so there was this real trust on set that I was trying to keep an eye that we weren't kind of heading off the script too far, because in a film like this, in a thriller, like, there are beats you have to hit, and there were things that I had designed as a director, moments that were going to elevate, so you had to kind of stay on track. But it was a pretty free and open set for collaboration and trying things. I usually would ask before we left a big setup, if they were both happy? Was there something that they really wanted to try, time permitting? But I tried to always, put that out there before, to make it really collaborative and really open to trying things.
Yeah, it's a great thing she's not too precious. I do some writing myself, and then people say you should try doing this with it. I'm like, do I really want to try doing that? Yeah, I got
It's
to learn to be enough.
hard.
So yeah.
Yeah, because like as a writer, this, like if you give your script to 10 people, they're all going to have, especially if they know that you're open to suggestions or comments, they're going to each send you, well, maybe not all of them, but you're going to get 5 different things you could do.
Yeah.
Like, oh, take it in this direction. So you really have to, yeah, I'm working on a couple things now, and it can be so challenging because you can just keep rewriting for the rest of your life. At some point, you have to put the pen down, and you also, as a director, have to put the editing brush down and move on. So yeah, so it's kind of knowing. You must find that if you do show it, you get a lot of conflicting ideas and comments. And
I do get like some ideas that do work great and they do fit in. I'm like, oh, that does work. But there are sometimes people will say, you should just change this completely. And I was like, but then that's just a different story. I'll just write something different.
right.
Let's write a
Totally.
new one completely.
Yeah, it's hard. It's really knowing kind of one of my rules of thumb, especially when I'm sharing the rough cut of the movie or pieces of, like having a test screening, is if you're getting a lot of the same comments, if a lot of, 3 or 4 people are having the same issue with a certain moment, whether it's in a script or a film, it's definitely worth looking at it. If it's just, a comment here and there, then,
very true.
Yeah, you have to trust yourself.
So what was it about this particular script that made you want to get involved with it?
Well, I knew that I wanted to, direct a narrative feature. I've produced, probably 17, and I knew I wanted to do something in the genre world. I knew I didn't, slashers aren't really my thing. I can enjoy them, but I knew for me, a thriller made more sense. And I had read something that I was hoping to option, and I lost it like a year prior, which was, I'm still mad about. I still reach out to those writers every couple of years to say, hey, and they finally say, Sylvia, it's gone. They bought it outright. They may never make it, but it's gone. So Danny sent me the draft of the script, which was, I think, like 75 pages to start. And gosh, he had something there, a great concept, the relationship between the 2 characters. And then together we added in the live stream elements, and I ratcheted up some of the tension with kind of some Hitchcock thriller moments. And yeah, we just spent probably 8-9 months, because we were both busy, just workshopping it a bit, a little bit of ideas, writing, having a couple people look at it, reading scenes and stuff like that. And I just thought it could be a lot of fun, and it was contained. I figured it wouldn't be crazy expensive. And, with the right actor, I knew we would need someone amazing, just amazing to play the male lead. Without that chemistry and that spark of, magic, then we would be in trouble. So we kind of started casting early on, knowing that we needed. And so I had a friend of mine, a great casting director in New York called Judy Henderson, started putting feelers out. And we actually got quite a lot of people that put themselves on tape for us. And Luke was one of those. And, we made a few Hail Mary passes to, big stars, one of the stars of Stranger Things, kind of like, and the minute we saw Luke's audition, I think we had a huge offer out. God, it might've been to the clown from It.
Oh,
like we were ever going to get him. And frankly, I don't know that. And I love him, but I don't know that he would have done as good a job as Luke. But as soon as we saw Luke's audition, we were both like, holy shit, I think this is our Tom. And at that point, he had not come out yet in Sabrina. But we just knew he was so good, and he brought so much to the role. So it was kind of a collection of all of that, seeing that chemistry, the script, the potential, trusting in Danny and her trusting in me to direct. It just felt like a great team. And then I got one of my favorite producers to come on and help helped me, get this thing made, Michael and Jay, and out of, we worked together a lot. And so, yeah, it just kind of fell into place.
It actually does sound like it's just this perfect little puzzle that just fit together so well as soon as you managed to get Luke as well.
Yeah. Yeah. The hardest part with any independent filmmaker I know trying to make an indie is getting the funding, so just, finding the money, that was the hardest part. We shot the whole middle part of the movie with Luke first. We decided let's go make this because we have the money, we can shoot the bulk, because also we knew he was coming out in Sabrina, and then he was going to have commitments to Netflix and stuff. So yeah, so we did that first, which, boy, if I could make every movie that way from here on out, I might consider it, because then we had a long time, 10 months or so before we shot again. So we kind of kept tweaking it. I went ahead and worked with Alex Gans, our editor. And so we edited that whole section. So we knew the whole mid 60 minutes, 55, 60 minutes of the movie. We knew what we had. And so we knew, like, okay, we need to develop, Jess's character this way in the beginning. So we kept rewriting and tweaking the whole opening 15, 17 minutes. And then the ending, we had so many different ideas on set. Even Luke came up with ideas. We were all like, how should we end this? And, we kind of ran out of time, and then we picked it up when we came back. But, Alex, our editor, had a lot to do with helping us kind of craft that ending. He and I just kind of started riffing on some ideas, and Danny was on board. And so then we all kind of,
yeah, it's such a fun movie. And like, this is a movie that I'm actually trying to get a lot of people I work with. Like, I've got a copy, I will lend it to you. You need to watch it.
Yeah. And hopefully it's supposed to be coming out. Oh, it's out. Right.
Yeah,
so it's out
in
Australia. Yeah, it's out there. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I actually think the moment it was out, like the day I got it, I pre-ordered it so I could rush in, go get it. And I think I posted, I watched it the night of, and you're like, oh, let me know what you think. And I was like, she paid attention.
That's right. I remember that I kind of forgot, but I totally remember, because it's not like I get that many. I'm not very good on social media. And the film was about social media. I remember having some panic attacks before we started filming, like, oh my God, I'm making a movie about social media. And personally, I'm not a big fan. And it stresses me out a little, when I feel like, oh my God, I have to post something. Mm-hmm. So I do try to be respectful and thank people if they're watching the movie, because we do make it for horror lovers and film goers. There'd be no movies if we didn't have people to watch them.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
So after doing this, do you kind of consider yourself a bit of a horror girly?
I do. I've loved horror movies since I was a kid, like, yeah. Oh yeah. And horror, and then thrillers, all kinds, really, from John Carpenter to, Hitchcock. There's so many different, and there's so many, gosh, great films out currently, and in the last 10 years. And I love Australian horror. I mean, The Babadook is one of my favorites. Talk to Me, of course, is fabulous. And I love Sissy. I got to know Kane and Hannah at Fright Fest in London. And yeah, that's a great kind of thriller horror. Oh, I don't know if you've seen that, but it's fabulous.
I haven't seen it. I do really.
Oh, you should put it on your list.
I may have it though. I have a lot of things I just never.
Yeah, they're from Sydney, and they're really, really talented. And that was a big film. I think it premiered like at South by Southwest, and they're really talented. I can't wait to see what they make next. Yeah. So I want to also stay in this world, because as a filmmaker and a producer, I've traveled film festivals for 20 years. There's nothing like horror film festivals. There really isn't. There's nothing more fun. And to me, I've always believed that, like, the reward for a filmmaker making an indie film are the film festivals. Mm-hmm. So I knew when we were struggling through Follow Her, I was like, well, I better put aside some money and some air miles, because I am going out on the road. And I went to almost every festival. It was a bit insane. Yeah. From Portugal to Porto Alegre, Brazil, to oh my gosh, to all Slovenia, London, yeah, all over the US, and it was amazing.
But that was
Yeah.
almost like a 2-year run, wasn't it? Like it was going through for a
So
long
it
time.
was about 13, 14, yeah, 14, 15 months because we premiered in April, and then our last festival I think was March. Oh, oh no, so it was really just a year.
Oh,
Yeah,
just
it felt
yeah,
like more
wow.
than a year because it went into the new next year. But yeah, we premiered in April. And the tricky thing was with COVID, we were actually ready to launch the previous year at festivals, and most of the festivals were still shutting down, and it was we were supposed to our premiere would have been at Brussels, the Brussels International Fantastic Film Festival, which is a big festival
Yeah.
as well. And they ended up moving their date and going virtual, I think. I don't There was a couple of big festivals that we were going to be premiering at, suddenly we're going virtual. Maybe it was a night of horror. There was a few of them. And so we spoke with our sales reps, our, producer reps, and we all kind of agreed, let's, especially because we really wanted that festival experience and we thought the audience response, could be good for the film. So yeah, so we kind of waited.
Well, it is a great audience response because you've got so many like audience awards. Do you feel that those are a bit more meaningful to you because it's not a critic that was giving you one, it was actually the people who viewed it and enjoyed it more?
Yeah, yeah, it kind of does mean more because ultimately you make a film for enjoyment, for yeah, if you can make people think, but you make it so that they go on a ride and maybe they forget the stresses of the day, especially in this world. But so for them to enjoy the film and vote for it, that feels really good. That's and then depending on the jury and who the jury is, there's a thrill to that as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I think for filmmakers that audience award is a big deal. Yeah, that feels really good.
It's just because obviously you have the jury, that's your peers, but then you're like, my
Right.
audience said this is the one for the
Yeah.
festival, especially if it's something like
Yeah.
Screamfest or something like that, because that's where you premiered. I
Yeah.
think in Los Angeles was Screamfest.
No, it was in at Popcorn Frights in
Oh yeah,
Fort Lauderdale, Miami, and that's where we won. We won did we win the audience? I know we won the jury award there. I
you
don't know
won
if we won the
so many you can't keep track.
Yeah, but we did play at Screenfest, which boy, screening the screening at the what used to be the Chinese theater, it's now got a different name. That was the most beautiful the film has ever looked and sounded in the life of the film. I I pushed to get into this a certain screening room there. They were screening in three, and I probably made the festival directors a little crazy, but I got there a few days ahead and really watched. And I was like, oh my God, we have to be in this theater. And then I watched the movie from the balcony, and I heard things I'd never heard. That I was like, I haven't heard this since I was in the in the sound mix. And yeah, I was like, oh my gosh, can I bring distributors to watch the movie here? Because the sound, the look, it was yeah, it was pretty incredible. We had a great packed house, and that was one of my favorite screenings. Oh my gosh, that was really a good screening.
I was actually going to ask you if that was your favorite one. Is that the one that goes, yep, this film's made it, this
It
film
was-
is going to do so well?
I don't know if it was my favorite. So we premiered at Fanasporta, which it was like the 45th year at this gorgeous theater in Portugal, at Porto. Um, And so we didn't know anyone at the festival. We got in, it was the first festival we were accepted. And so I was so excited. And so I was like, well, we're definitely going. Danny came. And so they have this gorgeous big theater. And so we showed the film and it went over really well. We were there for maybe 6 days, and it's a long festival. It's 12 days. And so we leave, we say, thank you very much. We go home. And 6 days later, we get word that we had won the jury award and the audience award. And I think she got an actress award there. So that was kind of like, to start that way felt pretty great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. That's a
So
great start. Because like personally, for me, I'll talk about my writing. Um, I actually submitted to a night of horror, and
oh,
that's the first time I actually noticed the poster for Follow Her. And I didn't get
okay.
into that one, but I was like, you know what? I'm just happy someone read it though. That's all I'm kind of.
Yeah.
At least someone took their time to actually say no to it. Didn't just go get rid of it. I don't want to see it. But
Yeah,
yeah,
totally.
when I did get an award. I was just like, wait, someone actually liked it. It was, yeah, it's.
That's great.
But to
Especially
go
for
from like
screenplays
nothing
to
and
get
then
awards.
suddenly it's like, here we do like it, have an award. You're like, but then you got
Yeah, that's a
three
big
in
deal.
one night.
Yeah, but it wasn't Sundance, or South by, but it was fun. And it's a great festival. And yeah, but so how many scripts have you written? Have you written a bunch?
Only two at the moment, just shorts.
That's great.
Yeah, I
Keep
feel like I'm talking
writing.
about me a bit too much now.
Oh, not at all. No, this industry, it's all about getting to know people and reading. I read so many scripts. I always tell people just read, if you want to direct or write or produce or, read screenplays. I read,
Mm.
I always have like 10, I have like 15 scripts I'm supposed to be reading right now to give feedback, to consider. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And I feel bad because I know how precious scripts are when, we work so hard on them. So I'm a big believer of reading a lot.
Oh yeah, because you got to
It's
know what people want, and just if there's like a new technique from doing something you haven't learned yet, and how to kind of
Yeah,
script it as well.
right.
Because
Yeah.
I have some Quentin Tarantino scripts that I look at if I want to know how to kind of transition between certain things and whatnot, and be like, oh, that's how he does it. So yeah, it
Oh,
works.
that's great. Yeah. And nowadays you can find, I was talking to, I have a couple of friends and they're like, oh, I really want, I'm like, well, if you want to start writing a screenplay, read your favorites. What are your favorites? Go online. You'll find them probably for free.
Hmm.
So read those and then, yeah. So, um,
So are you looking to dive into another horror movie anytime soon?
I am, if I can just find the money.
It's just
Yeah,
always that.
it's so funny. I'm like, oh my gosh, what I was hoping and am hoping that my next film is, but there's so many of these I keep hearing about. It's a werewolf movie. um, so we'll see. But yeah, it's with a great writer, young writer, unproduced writer. So this would be, I read it. I think I found it on Coverfly, or what was it, like the #1 rated horror film or something on their website. And I just fell in love with it. I love the characters. It's a female lead, and so we're all, I've been working on it a little bit with Ari, who's the writer, and talking to my manager about it. And we're kind of doing a final little bit of polish to try to then send it out into the world and try to find a production company home for it. So yeah, I have a few, we always, I think any filmmaker that hasn't had a huge hit and doesn't have a studio knocking down their doors always trying to peddle 3, 4, 5 projects. I have a script on another project I'd love to shoot in South America, a much lower budget, under $1 million film, which is a beautifully written Spanish horror film. Yeah, it's Argentinian, but not sure exactly where we'd shoot it yet in South America. Yeah, so
I actually
there's
think you'll do well with werewolves. We don't really have that many newer werewolf movies. So
cool. Well,
I
I've
think
heard
you
of
have
a
an
couple
audience.
big ones. There's a couple big ones coming out, and then there was one made by Larry Fessenden, which was really good. It was an indie one, really good though. Very character driven. Yeah, and then there are a couple of big ones being made right now that you just haven't heard of yet. But that's okay. Just like, zombies and vampires, and they have a built-in audience and everyone. I don't think we get tired of them.
Oh no,
So
no,
yeah.
I've got friends who are big fans of werewolf movies. So I
Oh,
know
good.
I've
Well,
got some
then I'll
friends who are
let you
big excited.
know.
Definitely. Also
That's great. Yeah,
witches. I find witches haven't had their moment for a while.
true. It's funny, as a kid, I went through a phase of having nightmares. Not bad, just a short phase, but it was witches, which is so strange. I think I watched a scary movie at home one night when I was probably like 6 or 7 that, you know, had witches in it. It definitely had, I can kind of remember the movie a little bit. And that just, yeah. So someday maybe I'll make I don't know.
Face your
That's,
fear. Do a witch movie, yeah.
get over it. Yeah.
Get over it.
Yeah.
So you've been a fan of the genre since you were a child. Is there a particular subgenre of horror you'd like to eventually make?
Well, I do like creature features, so the werewolf kind of fits into that. I mean, I like horror comedy. They're hard to get they're harder to make right now because I think distributors, just like ours was thriller, is it thriller or horror? And I do like the thriller space, the kind of but I think the creature feature thing, whether if it's not my werewolf movie, I was also looking at this other one which had like was a shapeshifter film. So there's a couple of different things. I definitely would like to do something um in that world. Um yeah.
Uh,
So
are you a practical special effects person, or are you for CGI?
I would like to say yes, but I would, so for the werewolf movie, we would try to do as much practical. It's a sizable budget for the werewolf because we want it. Everyone who's making a werewolf movie says, "Oh, I want it to look like an American Werewolf in London," which I do.
Yes.
Which would be a lot of practical
Yeah.
effects. Of course, there would definitely be visual effects, but yeah, I do really love, not that I've had much experience in practical effects movies, but I had some, I've done some crime, I produced a couple of films that there was a bit of, squib and violence and blood and guts and stuff that, were practical on set. But as far as like creatures and stuff, that would be a lot of fun. But
It
it's
would.
time consuming and it takes some cash. And then nowadays, my gosh, you can do like, you can create these 3D worlds all around. You can go into studios, and I'm sure that's how they did a lot of A Quiet Place, you know. You know, so that's there's this other film that also it's kind of a creature thing. I'm really excited about it. It's kind of about a supernatural element that appears in the, it's like I don't want to say too much about it, but it's basically a post-apocalyptic film where there's something of the earth that's killing humanity. It's trying to rid the earth of it. And it's really creepy, really good, very character driven. And so this is the type of film that we might, for budget reasons, go into a studio just for stuff out on the street, because we would need this world of, a decimated world, post-apocalyptic. And then there's some driving stuff. So I think for that we might need to, go into a studio and build a world that we can just kind of build a set around it, which would be really fun. Yeah, producing movies over the years, we used to sometimes, if you're shooting in a car, there was something called a poor man's process, which was, you wouldn't go out on the street, you would do lights, and you'd have a car and you'd kind of move it a little so the people in the car, and then you could have, so it's kind of the same concept on steroids. But yeah, that's the way of the future, so I wouldn't mind experimenting a little bit in it, but I do like having practical props and giving the actor something to hang on to. But that's, yeah. Yeah, and I don't tend to be, I don't know if you are, but I'm not a huge DC or Marvel universe. That's not where not that I'd ever turn one down, but that's not my,
I
yeah,
kind of got over it. They really saturated the market a little too much. And
totally.
just
Yeah,
the more they bring it up, the more I just have no care for it. I'm someone, if you tell me to watch something multiple times, I think I won't watch it just to spite you, just because you irritated me with it, so I'll irritate you back. So I haven't watched the last season of Game of Thrones because no one would shut up about it. And
I
I'm
didn't
like,
either.
people say, well, you should have watched it. I'm like, you should have been quiet about it. I would have watched it.
Yeah, yeah. I got tired of it. I didn't watch the last few seasons. Yeah. But it's a great, yeah.
Yeah,
I was like that with
great.
Breaking Bad, not a horror at all series, but it took me years. And then I watched it like all 6 or 7 seasons in like 3 weeks. I barely slept. I got so addicted to it. I don't know if it's a big series in Australia,
Oh,
but
it did phenomenal here when it was on. But
oh,
yeah,
yeah,
Walking
yeah.
Dead.
What a great.
everyone was telling me to watch that, and I haven't watched an episode. I'll eventually watch it when people aren't talking about it, but
All right, then I won't tell you.
they still
That's
do conventions here for The Walking Dead. Like, it is
yeah,
still so huge, and obviously you've got the
yeah.
spin-offs and whatnot, but I will do it. I'll eventually do it when people
I
aren't
never
telling me
thought
to
I
still
would
do
dig
it.
that series. I was like, oh God, please. And then I watched the first friggin' episode and I was like, holy shit, it was freaking, it was really damn good. That pilot episode, so good. You just get swoop sucked in. Well, 27 days later, the Danny Boyle film
Yeah,
about zombies, one of the great horror movies and best, in my opinion, horror movie of all time. I mean, zombie movie of all time.
they went
And
completely.
there was rumors they were making a new one,
Yeah,
but
apparently Killian Murphy's coming back for it
27,
as well. 28 day,
oh,
28 years
oh,
later.
28. I said 27 days. It's
You were
28 days. So,
close.
yeah. And this is going to be 28 years later, I think.
Yeah,
I
28
cannot
years.
wait. I cannot wait.
I still remember seeing that. It was such a good film. I had to watch it at home because I was too young to actually see it at the movie.
Yeah,
But just being so completely different from other zombie movies, not a case of, oh,
totally.
they got bitten, this happened. You're like, no, the idea of it's like this virus that was just rage. Such a great
Yeah,
concept.
I know. So well done. Yeah. Such a great, yeah. All right, the cats are going crazy. Stop. They're running around. Um, yeah, it's funny. The cat in the movie, Mr. Squeakers, is my cat. He's one of the ones running around. Yeah.
That's why he's like, there's a camera I want on, mum.
That's right. He normally like places himself in the shop, but there's not really a place for him to, yeah.
Well, if your cats are starting to give you a bit of grief, I might wrap this up very, very soon. But
Sure.
were you planning on ever working with Danny again on something else?
I'd love to. I mean, we had talked about, she always had an idea for a part two. And then I was like, oh no, this is a trilogy. And I had a whole idea of, oh God, it was gonna be so good. And the resolve and payback happens in the third one. And I pray we get to make it, but it's, I don't know if that'll happen. And maybe I know Danny is kind of, and I keep telling her like she should also act, but she's kind of really trying to focus in directing, and directing is now my priority as well. So I'm not sure, but I'd totally be down to, and I'm sure we're going to see some really fun things from her. She's done some really fun shorts, and she did direct a feature, which isn't finished yet. So I'll be
Oh,
really curious to see
is
that.
is that another horror? Is that or a thriller or like a drama?
It is. It is a horror. Yep.
So I
Yeah.
should just wait to see the poster for that pop up on all the film festival as well.
Probably. Yeah. I haven't heard for a few months about how I can't wait to see it. Yeah. So, yeah, I would love to work with Luke again. He just did an Australian series called Bad Cop, Good Cop. I just saw he posted about it. And then some of our other casts, I'd love to work with Mark Moses again and Ileana Jones. And
So if he's done that, I'm just thinking, then that's actually a remake of an old Australian show that we had. That's actually really cool.
yeah, they just shot
Thinking about
like
it.
8 episodes. And yeah, I can't wait to see it.
For some reason,
So
that show actually popped up in my mind a couple of days ago. Maybe that's
maybe
why.
never want to laugh at he's pretty zany and fun on Instagram.
Oh yeah, he is.
Yeah.
But he was actually someone who gave people so much insight to what the writing and acting strike was actually fighting for. He gave us so much information about that, talking about how he was on a billboard for Russian Doll, and he's like, yeah, that was on Hollywood Boulevard. I didn't see a penny from that. And talking about how some studios wanted to get people to sign off and have their image used by studios indefinitely for a one-off payment,
Yeah.
which was
Like, especially
disgusting.
background actors.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, here's your, an extra $100. And now forever you can be in the background of this movie and that movie. Yeah. It's like, yeah, no, it's a mess. It's, I think they got a lot of what they needed. And I always say that who's fighting for indie filmmakers? Because nobody's fighting for us. We don't have a union. I mean, I can join the Producers Guild. I've considered it over the last 7 to 10 years, and I haven't yet because I don't really know that it's going to it's not looking out for me. It's a great networking. And I'm not a great networker anyway. So I'm like, is it worth it? But yeah, I wish that somebody through all of this, all I kept thinking is like, at least somebody's fighting for you guys. The indie filmmaker gets so screwed, especially in the model of today. Yeah, yeah, I don't want, it's really hard for indie films right now I know so many great filmmakers with amazing movies who just can't get yeah,
Yeah.
so many talented and wonderful films. That's why I so encourage people to go to festivals, and if a festival has, a screening aspect, streaming, do it, you know, yeah, I know. I'm like, I sometimes I'm like jonesing for, oh my God, what festival is happening? Where can I go to a festival, or is there one that's virtual? I don't really believe in festivals that are only virtual.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of bullshit festivals. And I always warn filmmakers, make sure the money you're spending on getting into a festival is legitimate, because there's a lot of crap festivals. I mean, a lot of crap festivals that if a festival is happening every 3 months, every 4 months, it's probably, and yeah, that's I don't want to say too much more, but yeah, just be careful.
No, I understand, because when I first started, it was actually a friend of mine, indie director here, Nathan Hill, who said, go onto Film Freeway and start submitting your script and just see what happens. And then I did, and I'm looking at certain things and I'm like, okay, you're a first year, might not pick you. You have some decent reviews that look fine, I'll pick you. And then I spoke to a friend from LA, Dave Reeder, and he was saying, don't go for the first year ones. Make sure that they're reputable, make sure they've got proper social media, make sure they have this. So I made sure, even though I went a bit crazy with my first script, I did make sure I checked, just to
That's
make
great.
sure things
Yeah.
weren't going to be a bit, because he was saying that there are times where you'll pay money and you're just paying to get an award where no one's actually going to judge it, or it's not going to compete. Yeah.
A lot. And I also think if you see a festival that has like 30 awards, run. Unless you're really not getting look, at times we all need a little boost. We need a little, just if that's kind of, you need that laurel, go for it. But before you're spending too much money, because holy shit, it's
It adds up.
I spent so much money. I had this like, when I really work hard on something, I'm up till 3 a.m. I can't tell you, I feel like I could give a school, I could give a tutorial on film festivals, because I studied and spent so much time researching every best of horror festival. And then I would cross check them. And yeah. And for instance, A Night of Horror, I don't know if you know Bryn, but he is now starting a new festival called Dark Nights. And this is going to be its first official year, but because it's Bryn,
Yeah.
who, he did A Night of Horror with, oh my gosh, I'm forgetting the guy's name. I went to his festival in America. Anyway, he's bringing the festival just to the US. So Bryn is now creating his own. So I want to give that one a push, because it's going to be a wonderful festival.
I'm going to write that one down.
I think it's called Dark Nights. And it's in Sydney, and I've been telling all my filmmaker friends to submit. And that's what I'm trying to get back to Australia. I want to go to Dark Nights. I want to go see koalas and and joeys in the wild and hike. And I love your country.
Oh,
So.
I've never seen a koala in the wild. I see plenty of kangaroos, because they behave like meerkats, because they just like, when you're around,
Yeah.
just
I've seen the kangaroos. I saw some koalas in the wild.
Oh wow, whereabouts were you to see koalas? I don't see them.
Yeah, I was about probably 6 hours northeast of Sydney. What's that area called? Gosh, your
I'm
country is so
Victoria.
big.
I have no idea. I've been there once.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, there was a park. And it's funny, I had a friend who was living there. She's from Peru. And she's like, yeah, I've been living here for 10 years. I've seen a koala once. And I'm like, well, it so happened I was in her neighborhood. And I was like, well, come meet me. And she's like, oh my gosh, we saw a mama with a baby and another one. Yeah. And 25, 35 kangaroos. Yeah. So it was really
I'm jealous. I'm really jealous. I need to see a koala. I've seen wombats. Wombats are great. They're so
Oh
cute.
yeah, I haven't seen those in a while. Oh, and what are the little kangaroos? There's all sizes. There's like the kangaroo, and then there's the other one, and the other little, and the
And then there's like
capybara.
oh, there's a wallaby and there's a
Yeah, right.
bilby. Yeah. Have you?
I was so nervous driving. I drove all over the country. First off, it's on the you guys drive on the wrong side of the road. And I was so afraid to hit. I am such an animal lover. It would have I would have been, yeah, it would have ruined my trip if I hit a kangaroo or a wallaby. So I was driving like this with my eyes like peeled to make sure. That would be a horror film. Me hitting a kangaroo is a horror movie for
Uh,
me.
I remember I've been to Los Angeles twice, and the second time I went, didn't sleep well on the plane, and I'm letting a friend know, oh no, I've arrived, I'm here. And I look up in the back of the cab and I panicked because I'm like, I'm on the wrong side of the road. Oh wait, you're in a different country. You're fine. You're completely fine.
Takes time to get used to it.
It does. And then I got into a friend's car, and a friend of mine back home had the exact same car. And I'm like, I shouldn't be on this side of the car without a wheel. What's going on? This is weird. I don't like it.
That's really, yeah, yeah, it's fun.
Well, Sylvia, thank you so much for your time. I really, really appreciated this. And it was nice to finally get to speak to you in somewhat person.
Yeah, you too. Yeah, I mean, Zoom makes it feel more real because at least we're seeing each other.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So you're in Melbourne
Melbourne.
or
Yeah.
outside Melbourne. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'll let you know if I make it back to Australia and I'm in your area
You do?
because
Yeah.
I want to take that drive along the bottom of the country. That amazing drive.
Oh, the Great Ocean Road?
Yes.
Yeah. It's a great
So,
drive.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm a travel freak. But anyway, this was fun. Yeah.
Oh, this was great fun. And yeah, hopefully one day I get to see you again on one of these for maybe your next horror film that you
I
do.
hope so. Oh, yeah, I did a little short horror comedy. It's a horror comedy because it was next to no money and I paid for it myself. So I'm like, screw it. It's called Alpaca. It's pretty friggin' funny. I hope. I don't know. Didn't come out quite as good as I hoped, but I think it's fun. And so hopefully that'll be done in the next couple of months. And it's a short, like a 14-minute short, but that'll be out at
talk about.
It's fun. Yeah.
Well, thank you everyone for watching. I really hope you enjoyed the show. Please like and subscribe, do all those great things, and we'll see you on the next one. Bye, guys.